The international break is over. The EFL is back, and it's a trip to our old friends from last season as Ipswich head to Hillsborough to face Sheffield Wednesday. Welcome to the Blue Monday preview show. Welcome, everybody, to the preview show. It is me, Benjamin Bloom. Don't tune out now because Richard's not here. I'm standing in for Rich, who's on holiday in Sussex or something, taking a very undeserved few days off, given he works 24/7 on our podcast. I'm missing him terribly. And we've been missing the football terribly, haven't we, Seb? How are you, my friend?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, we were discussing in the green room. It feels like a long time since that Cardiff game for me. I mean, a couple of England games in there. I watched them both, but yeah, I'm not half glad that it's back. It feels like a very long 2 weeks, and well, we're about to be overrun, aren't we, with 2-3 game weeks back to back? And yeah, here we go. This is where the season really sort of kicks into life. So very glad it's back and a very big game to talk about.
Looking forward to it, Seb. So we're here on the Prematch Show. You can join us each and every Thursday live at 8 p.m. If you are here and in the chat, do hit the thumbs up button. Helps us greatly. Give your opinion in the chat. We'll click up as many of them on the screen as possible. We'll do some Q&A later. Apologies if I don't read your comment out. There's so many comes in. We really do appreciate them. So do keep them coming. This preview show is in partnership with our friends at the Greyhound, and you can find certain members of the Blue Monday team in certain states of undress in the Greyhound each and every Saturday, Seb. And I was there for the Leeds game and very much enjoyed it, actually. I will be back for the Blackburn game. So do come and see us pre-game in one of the pods in the corner or something, and say hello, especially if you are a pod listener. Seb, talk to me about the ITFC Fans Forum. Go.
It was what you'd come to expect from these kind of things. I watched the whole thing, and there are some exciting projects in the works, it sounds like. And there's the usual kind of questions, which we'll kind of avoid, I guess, tonight, and the usual ones, which maybe should be kept.
I want to hear about, Seb.
Maybe should be kept in other kind of delivery methods and stuff. But it is what it is. Ashton is so polished. Luke Werhan is very polished. I thought McKenna was on great form last night. He was making jibes about Tom Ball, the CFO, making jibes.
Had he had a bit of a loosener beforehand, do you reckon?
I think he must have done. Yeah, he's calling him Don Ball's uncle. And when he was asking about any ideas to beat Southampton, he's leaning into to Tom Ball and saying, I know you don't tell me to play Dom again. You say it all the time and stuff. So I just thought it was nice to see that maybe other kind of sides him a little bit more natural and a bit loose away from the pressures and cameras on a match day. So great to see. Yet again, it sounds like we've got some really exciting projects coming up with the training ground is the next thing they're going to do, and they're going to make it into some incredible, thing to take us forward with the club's vision in sync with the ownership group, what they want to do. And I guess the big news to come out of it was the new contracts till 2027, I think, for Charlie Turnbull, Rennie Gilmartin and Lee Grant, which is, again, I think Ashton described it as a superpower last night. He was saying he was, when clubs are looking to send us loans and transfer dealings, people love stability, and it's a huge feather in our cap now to have the backroom team on the same length of contract as the manager, promote stability in we'll talk about Sheffield Wednesday in a minute, in a league of some chaos sometimes.
So how do you think that works then? So McKenna signed the contract pre-season, which if we're led to believe he has the bargaining position he has, you would imagine he would have first refusal to take those staff with him in the event a clause and a compensation was matched. You would assume that that would be the key part of that contract now in terms of compensations and safety. But you're right, they now come as a package, don't they? Is that how you see it?
It's how things tend to go, isn't it? A manager leaves and the first thing they do is go back to where they've worked most recently and pinch half of the coaching staff. Is what Paul Cook couldn't do, obviously, with Liam Richardson, much to his kind of demise. So it's just it guarantees us, doesn't it? If a club wants to come in and poach McKenna, we've now got that little bit more security. It might make things a little bit more difficult. In reality, if a big club wants him, they're going to come and get him regardless, because the fees they'll pay to release those guys is going to be pennies, probably compared to the budgets the club is going to move to. But it adds a little bit more security for us. And I love the way that McKenna is so, he celebrates that backroom team and he gives them so much praise and says they're crucial in the day-to-day working. And it's right that they're, rewarded for the hard work they've put in.
Seb Brown, do you want to talk about tickets, or do you want to wait until somebody asks you about it in the Q&A later on?
We can wait until the Q&A, but I think the best thing to do is to wait for the Flagship Show and put it in the Q&A then for whoever's on the Flagship Show.
Can I just get my disclaimer in? I'm hosting the Flagship Show, and I will be asking that question and not answering it, Seb.
Just keep it for the Q&A. If people want to get in the Q&A and put it in there, absolutely fine.
And you can have your views on anything that was said in the forum and on tickets, and we might even read some of them out. Internationals, Seb, do you want to bang through this? Morsey, Baggett, Slicker, Scarlett, Broadhead, Burns, your thoughts?
Yeah, so Morsey got a few minutes, didn't he? Won his 9th cap with a late appearance. I think they lost 3-1 to Tunisia, but he played in the last 2 games, albeit with a grand total of about 5 minutes. But great for him to be back involved. Elkan Baggett won his 2nd under-23 Indonesia cap. Obviously, he's played for the full side. This was his under-23 Indonesian side, and they've qualified for the Indonesia Cup, which I presume is the same time as the other one. I don't know when it's going to be. They beat Turkmenistan, and he's qualified. Kieran Slicker and Dane Scarlett both won under-21 caps. Nathan Broadhead was an unused sub as Wales won in Latvia 2-0. And Wes Burns, as we know, obviously got sent back with this hamstring. Well, it was a bit scary, wasn't it? The manager kind of came out and said he's tweaked it, and then, oh no, he's pulled his hamstring, so he's gone back, and we all got very worried. But sounds today like he's had a scan. It's all good. It was simply a precautionary measure, and he's good to go with a training session tomorrow, hopefully. So great to see some of the guys get minutes. Morsey especially, because he's worked so hard. He seemed to make every provisional squad for about 2 or 3 years and never made the final cut, the poor guy. So I know he only got 5 minutes, but great for him. And a bit like McKenna said last night, having 6, 7, 8 international players away during a break is a sign of where the club is now, and it's a situation we're going to have to get used to as we kind of bring in higher caliber players and move up the leagues.
Amen. ITFC women home game on Sunday at the AGL against bottom of the table London Bees. London Bees have lost all 4 games so far, conceded 15, so that's looking promising. The ladies bounced back to winning ways last week with a late winner from Natasha Thomas, which popped up on my Twitter feed. Quite the finish from Natasha. Away at MK Dons, and will be looking to continue their decent start to the season, which is currently 3rd before Sunday's game. Let's get into it then, Seb. Sheffield Wednesday, who we know only too well from last season, couple of 2-2 draws. But just paint the picture, because you could not, look, you can pause time at various points between basically them beating Plymouth back in February and looking like champions elect, and a lot of interesting stuff has gone on. And even after winning at Wembley, just absolute carnage there, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So obviously go back, rewind 6 months, last February, they're champions elect. We know what happened at the Portman Road game, obviously 2-0 up. Dave's sliding doors moment, maybe for the season. Michael Smith goes through, heavy touch, can't finish, Broadhead free kick, finishes 2-2. And at that point, I think most of us were kind of consigned to probably finishing in 3rd and, keeping an eye on who's in 6th for the playoffs and fretting about Gareth Ainsworth taking Wickham to 6th and bullying us across 2 legs in a playoff semi. And yeah, they were up. I think there was an interview with Darren Moore, and a local journalist said, "Would you take 2nd now?" And he went, "No." And yeah, they were done. They were winning everything 1-0, amazing clean sheet record, and it just all went very, very wrong, didn't it? They would never have expected us to go on that run we went on. The run was absolutely incredible. There was the shock Sky televised defeat to Forest Green. They lost to Barnsley as well, and they have this run, don't they, in March and April, where they only win 1 out of 8 games. They completely drop out of it at that point. Our momentum is just insane, and they just simply can't catch us back. And I guess, there was a lot of banter going around between the 2 sets of fans with Owls Talk and TWTD, but I personally wanted them to win the playoffs because, the 3 sides were going into the final day all with a chance of 99, 100 points. And that was the standard for the division. They were excellent for most of the division, and I think they deserved to go up. They have this first leg playoff semi-final where, it's over for them. It's game over. It's done. Peterborough at Wembley. We saw what happened in the second leg. So the fan base go to,
Imagine
next
having
level.
for that game and not going, hey?
Is that what you did?
Yeah.
Amazing. You thought game over, presumably, at full time in the first leg.
I did think game over, but there was, not fortunately, but fortunately for my ego, there was a family issue at the same time, which made me decide, okay, it's not the right thing to be away. But yes, I didn't see the greatest comeback in playoff history. No.
but we've done it in 2000. The playoffs is the way to go up, isn't it? It's brilliant. So they kind of miss out on automatic promotion, lose to Peterborough in the first leg. They're on the floor. They have the amazing comeback. They win at Wembley in the 123rd minute, was it, with Josh Windass scoring against Barnsley. They rode their luck a bit in that game, and they must have been on an absolute high. You've had an incredibly exciting season. You've had incredibly exciting quality because you've finished on 96 points, whatever it was. You've overcome the biggest first leg deficit in playoff history to win it. You've then won against your rivals, not the main rivals, but against your rivals at Wembley. And going into the summer, they must have been on an absolute high. And then 3 weeks after the playoff final, it all starts to unravel a little bit. Obviously, we get the shock news that Darren Moore has left the club, and that kind of came out of nowhere. I don't remember any whisperings or any kind of discontent.
I was walking the dog, and I know the bit where I've got no signal, and I get into the signal bit. I flip my phone open, and do you know when you read a tweet and you actually check it's not from a fake account? You're like, what?
Yeah.
And I think was that your reaction too? What are they doing?
Yeah, and shock, because it was 3 weeks later. So I'm thinking, well, surely if you want to make a change, because there were whisperings and murmurings when they were going for that bad run of form that maybe they might, look to do something in the March, April time. And there were all those jokes, weren't they, saying, can you fire a manager before the second leg of a playoff semi-final, etc. And I kind of thought, well, if this was what was going to happen, why wouldn't you do it the week after the playoff final? Why would you allow somebody to presumably make decisions on retained and released players and plan preseason friendlies and plan transfer strategy and targets, and then get rid of them 2 weeks before preseason or a week before preseason is due to start? But that is the world of the ownership, Mr. Chanziri, who we'll discuss. And then he comes out 10 days after Moore leaves with this statement on the website where he's, saying Moore asked for 4 times his money and he wants 3-year contracts for him and his backroom staff, and he was unwilling to negotiate, so he did a mutual consent thing. And I kind of thought, okay, it doesn't really sound like Darren Moore, and Chanziri's got a bit of history with stuff in the past, but we kind of thought, fair enough, he's done what he's done. Isco Muñoz rocks up a few days later. There's that really
great guy, by the way.
Yeah. There's that really strange unveiling at a press conference where Chanziri is sat there just ranting about Carlton Palmer and his views on the Darren Moore situation. And
write that down. He's there ranting about Carlton, but it's just ridiculous, isn't it, when you even say it?
Yeah, and you're kind of feeling sorry for Muñoz, who's kind of sitting there and trying to get it back onto football.
The adult in the room. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, trying to kind of bring it back to what was meant to be his unveiling and his discussion for the future of the team. Then Chanziri does the weird thing with the pricing, which was discussed last night at the forum. Our guys are paying 39 quid to go there on Saturday. And I think if you go to one of the top category games for Wednesday this year, it's 59 quid if you're in the south stand, isn't it?
Yeah, in the top tier, in the middle, in the lovely seats. It's too much, isn't it? Way too much.
It's crazy. And then 23rd of August, Darren Moore does a statement and says it wasn't money. We split out because of footballing and vision differences. And then I thought that was the end of it. And I was preparing the script yesterday, and about 2 p.m, Mr. Chanziri does another statement about Darren Moore where he's revealing specific figures and bonuses that he'd asked for in his contract renewal. And incredibly strange situation. I always look at the social media of the other clubs and the forums before I do these kind of researches. And the biggest meme I've seen today, do you know that Michael Scott meme from The Office where he's kind of going like that? I've seen it everywhere with the hashtag Sheffield Wednesday. And I think that just sums up the last kind of 2 months for them, 3 months for them. It's just an incredibly strange situation, and that hasn't helped with their poor league start. And they've literally gone from being on top of the world, winning the playoff final after the best comeback ever after a really, really strong, exciting season, to being absolute bottom of the barrel.
I feel sorry for their fans, honestly. I really do. We know what it's like to. I mean, the complete opposite in terms of a owner that we were suspicious of, in not one that's there front and center, sacking people, getting points deductions, selling his stadium, and then putting it in the wrong year of accounts. He'd gone quiet for a couple of years though, and seemingly he'd got a guy, Darren Moore, very much like Marcus Evans and Mick McCarthy, got a guy who was very good in front of the press. Whatever you say, people can reasonably criticise Darren Moore's management. I'll accept that, but nobody can criticise his ability as a statesman to manage a big club playing below where they've historically been with a problematic chairman and a big intensity. He did that absolutely beautifully. Whatever you think of his football, I'll take they might have been a bit lucky in the playoff final. I'll take it was a bit robust rather than inspiring in terms of, the football. But yeah, their fans don't deserve that. And just when you think, well, okay, this is a bit unedifying, it's gone now. The new manager's in there, and let's move on and try and win some games. By the way, we'll talk about lost 4 and just got the first point, and then it's just unnecessary statement, wasn't it?
Just not needed at all. It's 107 days since him and Moore kind of went their separate ways, and it comes out now. And what I thought was strange was he said in his statement, I've waited until the international break so that it doesn't take any emphasis off the club. And it's like, well, the international break's been on for 10 or 11 days at this point, and you've chosen to release this statement 72 hours before it all kicks off again. So
the day before your manager's going to do a presser for his next game, yeah?
Yeah, incredibly strange individual. I mean, he's been there now since 2015 was it? I think he took over, and he got them close, didn't he? I mean, you'll know better than I do. They had a couple of seasons in the playoffs and got to the playoff final. So he kind of almost delivered, but then, year 3, FFP, all kicks in and it all goes horribly wrong, doesn't it? Obviously, you're in a better position than me to discuss what they were like those couple of years in the Championship.
Well, this is the folly of the crazy division that we're in, Seb. If he beats Hull in the playoff final in 2016, none of this happens. All of this goes away. That is the thing with that playoff final. And we've seen Sheffield Wednesday and Derby are the poster boys for getting to the playoff final having gambled. Obviously, if you're Brentford and you get to the playoff final, you come back the next year because you're bloody well run and you win it. But yeah, just win that one game. And let's be honest, that was Chancery against the Alarm family. So neither very popular owners there. But no, he bet the farm, didn't he, on Gary Hooper and Jordan Rhodes and ridiculous wages. And then FFP bit, and here they were. And here we are now this season. What do you think of Cisco then, the manager?
Yeah, I think he comes across well. I think he's been sold a really difficult deal. Known for his best for his time, obviously at Watford, finished second, I think, didn't he, with Watford a few years ago to get them up to the Premier League. About 10 months, I think he had there. He left a few games into the Premier League season. I think they were 14th. They were quite comfortable, mid-table. But Watford, being Watford, kind of did what they do. He's got a really difficult gig. I was watching the pre-match presser today, and all he will want to do is coach his players, set them up on a weekend and talk about football. And he's getting questions about Chancery and other issues that might have nothing whatsoever to do with him. And I just felt really, really sorry for him. What's your recollection of his Watford side when he finished second that year? I think it was behind closed door season, wasn't it? 2020, 2021. So I'm guessing you couldn't have seen them live, but I did.
Okay. Yeah, I did. I did a press box thing, and I've done a press conference with him as well. So I'm fairly familiar. So this is where I can give two possibilities, and you can decide. So they had Vladimir Ivic, and he was very unpopular, and they had a, let's just say, personality-heavy dressing room. Troy Deeney, Ben Foster, Andre Gray, Tom Cleverley, blah, blah, blah. Big names, big personalities. So some people argue that it just needed somebody that wasn't Vladimir Ivic, and who was a good people person. And I remember distinctly, he set him up 4-4-2 like Ivic was doing. Didn't massively work. He went 4-3-3, put Sarr further forward and Semmer on one side. He had better players, and it was COVID. The COVID years were the ones where the parachute teams really just seemed to, no one could get close to them at all. And so you could argue on the one hand, he did a very good job managing the hand he was dealt and met the brief. On the other hand, it does smell a bit like Avram Grant at Chelsea, where, was it Drogba Lampard,
Terry,
and Cech,
Essien,
and Essien managing the pitch, especially without crowds. But look, that could be completely unfair of me to say, and I'll find out whether I'm going to be wrong this season with how well he does at Sheffield Wednesday. But part of me thinks, and look, we had this with a string of managers, didn't we? With Paul Jewell and Mick McCarthy and Roy Keane and Paul Cook, that promotions on, having a promotion on your CV as the silver bullet, in terms of getting a job doesn't mean a lot sometimes, does it?
No, I think it's what owners used to look for, isn't it? But football's moved on now. We saw Keane replaced by Jewell, replaced by Mick, all of whom had, promotion CVs in the not too distant future. But football moves on, and now we're kind of in this world of young, talented, kind of, educated coaches, aren't we? And I like Muñoz. I think he comes across well in his presses and attacking, high pressing football. Would you describe that with his Watford side? Is that fair, or is that? Because that's what was mentioned amongst the Wednesday forums. They kind of said, we were expecting this high pressing, attacking kind of intent, and maybe with the squad he's got, which we'll come on to with their age and stuff, he's going to find that difficult to do. Is that a fair interpretation of his playing style?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I didn't see it like that from when I saw Watford, but I know he go and work in Greece, somewhere far flung in Europe in between. So I didn't see it that way. I could be wrong, of course, but very, very solid defensively. He had Troost-Ekong and Sierralta with two kind of big humping centre backs, but he had Sarr and João Pedro and the like. And they would, I don't know. I always find it hard to judge in situations like that. Coming halfway through it's not an easy gig coming halfway through a season, and basically if you get promoted, you've done a good job, and anything else is a bad job. But yeah, that was kind of my perception of it. So he's done all 5 games here. What's your take so far? And I'll bring some of the stuff up on the screen.
Well, I think that the last time out against Leeds was crucial for them, wasn't it? Obviously, they played 5, lost the first 4 on the bounce, and then before the international break, the weekend after we faced Leeds, is it a coupon bust affair? Everyone in the world expected Leeds with that, that front 4. Sinistero moved on deadline day, but that front 4 that was crazy,
of course he did.
tore us to pieces. Everyone kind of expected that to be a bit of a walk in the park for them, but they changed things around formation-wise. They kind of went more defensive, more disciplined, and they ground out a point. And I guess that completely flips things for them going into the international break with these 2 weeks when Muñoz can really look to work on things and really look to kind of, get his points across. A few of the players, I think they had 6 or 7 away in international duty, so some have still been away from the club. But I think he'll have used these 2 weeks to really kind of build the positives from that draw with Leeds. The losses before that were against Southampton, Hull, Preston and Cardiff, but that 0-0 at Leeds, unadventurous. I've got a Sheffield Wednesday guy that we do a bit of work for, and I had a chat with him, and he described it as unadventurous and industrial, but effective, and just what they needed to stop this rot and give everybody a slight bit of a lift going into the 2-week break.
Yeah, it's difficult because you kind of look at it and you think Southampton opening day, and they still had James Ward-Prowse playing for them, and it's on the TV. Everyone watches that. Even the Premier League fans watch that game because they haven't seen any English football for a good couple of months. Fine, whatever. You can lose that game, can't you? Yeah. But against Hull, they had the lead and they did not defend well, did they? Tufan scored a hat-trick, didn't he? Then, and I know you can turn around and say, "Oh, Preston are top of the table," but that feels like confirmation bias. It's a shutout at home and you're losing 1-0 in your own stadium. Lost in the last minute to Cardiff as well. So I would echo your point that they really, really needed something. But I don't know. I would hope if I was a Wednesday fan that you're not now going to set up every point's a prisoner. There's a long 41 games to go, isn't there, to So that's a lot of draws to get to 45 points, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'd be surprised if they were that unadventurous against us on the
I hope not.
on the weekend. He started with a 4-2-3-1. He went sort of 4-4-2 at Hull, and it just didn't work, and they got battered. And it went back to what we knew from last season. The three at the back with the wing backs, and Ellen Road, your wing backs, are actually going to sit deeper than perhaps the kind of a home game or an away game against a lesser side. So it was a tactical change that did it and brought back some familiarity. Do you go back to what you know? If you're struggling in your first few games of the season, we'll discuss their transfer business in a minute, but it's basically a lot of the same team and the same squad that we knew so well, battling week in, week out for the last kind of 9 months of last season. They played a back three for pretty much that entire season. Barry Bannon gets a free roll. Do you just go back to what you know in an attempt to stumble across something, change something, and break a bit of a rot before an international break? I think that's what they did, and it'll be interesting to see if they keep that against us at the weekend. His press conference today, he was saying about 4-3-3 again, but given the personnel they've got and the fact they were able to grind out that result, surely they'll stick with the back three against us and try and keep it more solid. If they'll have to be a bit more adventurous than they were against Leeds, because I don't think the locals would stand for that. If we scored early and they're set up very negatively and struggled to get back into the game, the atmosphere at Hillsborough would change pretty quickly, wouldn't it?
By the way, the back end of the 3-game week after they've played us, they've got Middlesbrough and Swansea, who are with them, the other two sides in the bottom three. So this is a huge week. And I don't know, it sounds ridiculous to say, because before the season, you're talking about a game against Middlesbrough and a game against us. You don't sit in against us and attack Middlesbrough. You sit in against Middlesbrough and attack us, don't you? But I don't know. That's the context of where it is now. I don't know, Seb. I don't know whether he'll stick or whether he'll twist. It's hard in a 3-game week, isn't it? You really don't want to lose that first game. That can and then you're a gambler betting to chase your losses for the next 2 games, especially if you've not had a win. So you're totally right. He's really up against it, and with my Ipswich Town fan hat on, that's tremendous, because we all know what Kieran McKenna's going to do, and the whole world and all the data team at Sheffield Wednesday know exactly what Kieran McKenna's going to do. And the issue is how are they going to approach playing against it? And to be fair, in terms of what you know from last year, I know there's an argument that the first game is so long ago, and it almost doesn't feel like the Ipswich team that finished the season that gave up that 2-goal lead at the start of the season. But the home game at Portman Road, they were more than a match. But
yeah,
as you said in the summings up, a lot of that toothpaste is out of the tube on that team. This is not that team that came to Portman Road and got 2-0 up, is it?
No, they've had some people have arrived in the summer that I can't work out their transfer strategy at all. We can discuss it. You did a great video. Everyone go to Ben's channel and check out the video that he did a couple of days ago about this, because I was watching it
before Mr. Chan series, love letter to Darren Moore, yeah.
Yeah, before the latest rant. But they've kind of gone down this weird thing of signing young players from Europe and France and Portugal, as well as kind of young academy prospects at top clubs like Man United, and they've also gone and got a bit of experience in the building as well. So I can't work out what they're trying to do. They have to bring the age of the squad down. Last year they were the oldest squad in League One by quite a way, and this season is the same problem. I think 4 out of the first 5 game weeks this season so far, they have fielded the oldest squad still. They kind of got these younger players they've brought in the summer, the likes of Dejadi Gassama, Dijon Bernard's come in from Man United as a centre back, Anthony Masaba, he's a tricky winger who's come in from Monaco. So they've kind of gone out there to try and bring players in to bring the average age down. But they're still in a world where you've got, Michael Smith was the main striker against Leeds. Barry Bannon is still in the central midfield positions. If you go through the spine of this team, or most of this team, it's still similar to last year, and the average age isn't coming down that much. That said, they've now had 2 weeks, obviously, with Muñez on the training pitch, and we could see finally these exciting wingers they've brought in might look to get starts. He's been playing Lee Gregory, who we know as a poacher in the box, who does his best work sort of between both posts. He's been playing kind of left midfield, left wing back occasionally, and he hasn't got the pace to do it. So there's some kind of murmurings of discontent amongst the Wednesday fans for players being out of position. Vasquez, I think the goalkeeper on loan from Milan, he looks okay. Stockdale moved on in the summer. They had Cameron Dawson, didn't they, was the goalie for kind of half of last season, and he would dovetail with Stockdale. So they brought in this guy, Devis Vasquez from Milan. Jeff Hendrick joined right at the end of the window, played most of last season for QPR. I think he might have played all the games last year for QPR. So a solid kind of, championship experienced midfielder. Reece James was made permanently, not the Chelsea one, obviously. He was made permanent after a loan spell there last season. And Juan Delgado's kind of coming at left fullback from the continent as well. So it's a bit of a mismatch. I mean, they were quite late starting their business. The first player joined on the 24th of July, which was about 3-4 weeks after pre-season has started. No, probably longer, probably 5-6 weeks after pre-season has started. So there's a bit of a catch up with the managerial and ownership situation, which has kind of led to late business. And yeah, it's kind of a scattergun approach of young talent from the continent, more championship experienced players who you kind of know, and try and throw them all together and get something done. They've left one squad space free in their 25-man list. They've submitted a 24-man list as part of their EFL squad list, and they're looking to maybe bring in a striker on a free transfer. And they've got this weird situation where Marvin Johnson, the Wes Burns' best mate from the game back in February, he's been left unregistered. He had a deadline day move to Derby fall through. So they're now in a situation where they've chosen not to register him. They're still paying him full whack, and he's not involved. So yeah, a lot of strange things going on with the squad. And Muñoz just somehow has to try and make this work, given the kind of cards he's been dealt.
I believe as well, I don't know if anyone in the chat can look it up. I think the head of recruitment went out in June, and I tried to look for the replacement, who apparently isn't in the building yet, but they're working with him. So
like Jim Henry, the fitness coach under Lambert, being on Zoom or whatever he was doing. Do you remember? Exactly
like that. Yeah. So whoever said in the chat, throwing stuff at the wall. I mean, don't get me wrong. There could be an absolute gem in there. I'm not going to profess to know about the European youngsters. I know Deshaun Bernard was at Hull and was all right. And Jeff
McKenna will know him, won't he, from Man United?
He very much will, so,
yeah.
But yeah. What do you think Darren Moore would have done if he still had the job in terms of pepping that team up? I assume he would have kept the majority of it sort of similar, built around Bannon, and just tried to add in, 3-4 first teamers and, go with the flow, I guess.
Yeah, I'd say you're exactly right. Coming off a 96-point season or whatever it was, I guess he would have just looked at the critical areas. Again, he probably would have tried to reduce the average age of the squad because it is high, and he probably wants a bit more, maybe, mobility and stuff up front to replace Michael Smith. But yeah, you're probably talking dripping, 4-5 players in across the window, getting them in early, getting them in time for your pre-season to start, rather than doing it 2 weeks before the season kicks off, and just looking to upgrade. And it'd be interesting to see what their plans were before all this summer upheaval for the season. You've heard rumours of Chanziri discussing a playoff kind of charge, and I presume most of them would have been happy with 21st and just scraping over the line and making sure they stay up while they do this transition from the older players to the younger players. Whether or not that's all changed now with Muñoz coming in, if Chanziri maybe has realised that he kind of has to be a bit more realistic with where they're going to finish, I don't know. But it'll be interesting to see how much their plans have altered given the crazy summer they've had.
I often try and imagine what someone's like internal theme music is. So like when I'm walking down the road, my internal theme is pretty cool. I'm kind of like John Travolta in Saturday. What is Mr. Chan series? Do you think it's just like the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme tune?
Yeah. Or it's a pinball machine just going ding bang ding, jumping from one thing to the other, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
Dear.
Absolutely crazy. But maybe now, hopefully, this will be the last of his statements, because, like you said, he'd gone quiet for a couple of years. Maybe now with this statement, he'll put it all to bed. I assume Darren Moore won't reply to the latest statement.
Why would he?
Did you describe it yesterday as saying sometimes just let the other person punch themselves out and just wait it out?
Yeah, especially if you're as classy a communicator as Darren Moore is. And Darren Moore's now doing TV as well, and obviously putting himself back in the frame for presumably a top-end League One job, or maybe a Championship job. Again, would you like to talk about us, Seb? now we've exhausted Sheffield Wednesday. Hopefully we've set up. But guys, hopefully we've kind of illustrated how this 6 to 8 week advantage I keep talking about that a League One promoted team has. Plymouth are doing nicely, aren't they? That you can completely torch if you if you go into chairman owner led meltdown during the summer. Seb, let me bring up our team that faced Cardiff, which was Hladky, Clark, Wolfenden, Burgess, Davis, Luongo, Morsey, Burns, Chaplin, Broadhead, Hurst, who's got in some interesting narrative when it pertains to Sheffield Wednesday. What is your take then on what you expect to see on Saturday compared to that?
Well, it sounds encouraging in the pre-match presser from McKenna. He's saying that Burns is likely to train tomorrow. Donasian's still out. We know that. Hurst has trained yesterday, today, and tomorrow, so will be involved at some stage. Whether or not you start him, I guess, is a risk given he started against Cardiff and clearly felt something and had to come off. And there's also this debate I've seen online about sort of Luongo versus Jack Taylor pushing for his first start. Now, it is a 3-game week, so we will see some rotation this week. Hladky for me will start in goal. I think there's an argument to be made for Brandon Williams coming in at right back. He was linking up with Hutchison for the third goal against Cardiff. We've brought him in from Man United. McKenna's going to know him, obviously. He's not come here to sit on the bench, so I wouldn't be that surprised to see Williams get a start. Wolfenden and Burgess will be the back two. McKenna's come out, hasn't he, and said that Toan Zabi isn't going to be ready for a few weeks. He's kind of at the start of his pre-season campaign. I'd go with Luongo. He'll be fired up for it against Sheffield Wednesday, obviously having been released by them, 18 months ago now. So I would go Luongo and Morsey in the middle. And then Burns, if Burns doesn't make it, then for me, or if Hurst doesn't make it, get Jackson in the team. He tore them apart at Hillsborough last year. He played on the left that day. He scored pretty early on, obviously. He tore Dominic Iorfa to bits. He also got the assist when he forced the own goal off Iorfa. So if one of those two is out, I would play Jackson. It just depends if you're going to play him wide right and have him running against their kind of leftish wing back / Lee Gregory, or if you're going to put him through the middle if Hurst doesn't make it. If they're both out, put Freddie up front. He deserves it after his 2 goals, but I'd be crucial having Jackson in there personally, given his pace and how well he did against them last year.
So let me get this right. If there's no Clark or Burns or Hurst, your solution would be
Williams, Jackson, Ladapo.
Yeah, let us know what you think in the chat. It should all be fairly, hopefully, flowing. But we keep mentioning this 3 games with the first and last game 7 days apart. We're going to need the squad big style this week. Does the international football does that raise any issues for you in terms of Broadhead and Morsey? Obviously, Burns has got the knock.
I don't think so. I mean, Burgess played, but he only played 1 game, didn't he? So he'll be okay. Broadhead was unused against Latvia. He played the first game against South Korea, was unused against Latvia, so he hasn't played since last weekend, so no issues there. Morsey only played about 5 minutes of football, and it's not a big time difference with Egypt, is it? So I've got no real issues around that one either. I expect them all to come back in, but I guess at some point in the not too distant future, we're going to have to start having conversations about, Toan Zabi in for Burgess, Jack Taylor in for Luongo, and Brandon Williams in for Jack Clark, and obviously Christian Walton is back in training next week as well. So the Walton Hladky debate will be on the horizon at some point in the not too distant future as well.
So they've poured water on the Toan Zabi thing, and which I think is quite a smart tactic, isn't it? And said we're going to see him down the road.
Yeah, but he very clearly said he won't feature in any of the upcoming league games. Obviously, we've got Wolves, haven't we, in midweek in the the Carabao Cup. So wouldn't be that surprised to see him maybe get 45 minutes there to kind of ease him into it. But McKenna, came out in today's press conference and said he's basically at the start of his, his pre-season kind of brilliant. Thanks, FBL. He's basically at the start of his pre-season
very helpful
journey.
Analysis there.
So I think we might see him get 45 minutes or so, maybe against Wolves in the Cup, but don't expect him to feature in the league, maybe even until the next international break. So at that point, he'll have had 4 weeks, 6 weeks of real kind of training, getting up to speed with how the team play. And once he gets in, I've got a feeling if he can stay fit, he'll stick around, because he could be one of the best in the squad.
I'm going to upset the chat, as I always do, Seb. Don't take this personally, anyone, but surely if you're playing at Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday and at Southampton on Tuesday, and you're batching the busy week, surely there's more. It's not a leap for me to say there's more chance of winning a game against Sheffield Wednesday than there is against Southampton. So I guess you go all out against Southampton, against Sheffield Wednesday, and come in on Sunday and see where you are in terms of, maybe there's going to be a bit of to-ing and fro for the Southampton game. That's going to be how he approaches it, isn't he?
I would think so logically, but it is the Championship and it is football. And Southampton have looked vulnerable. They're conceding a lot of goals at the moment, so they can be got at. But yeah, if you look at these 3 games on paper in the space of a week, so obviously Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday, Southampton on Tuesday, and then Blackburn at Portman Road the following Saturday. 2 away games. 2, Southampton's a bit of a trek to get to. I think logically you say, right, well, Sheffield Wednesday and Blackburn at home, there's your kind of, go for the 6 points and maybe make some changes for the midweek game and give the likes of Jack Taylor a bit of a run, where you might want those extra kind of legs in central midfield against a possession heavy team, maybe, rather than drop Luongo out a little bit. He'll be up for the game at Hillsborough, so I'd keep him in for that one and maybe look to bring Jack Taylor in against Southampton before maybe Luongo coming back in against Blackburn.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the whole gimmick against Southampton, as you say, who can be quite slow paced, can't they, should be freshness, shouldn't it? Whether that's Hutchison starts, Taylor starts, and depending what you do with Hurst, and you just shake it up and you say, all right, lads, you're in the squad. Here you go. Here's away at a year 1 parachute team. Show us what you've got and get us through this difficult week. And then again, you would look at, even the comparison I just made, you would look at Blackburn at home. I mean, you tell me, Blackburn at home vs Sheffield Wednesday away. Does the home advantage against Blackburn make that even the most winnable game of the whole week? I don't know. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, on paper, you look at the, Saturday's fixture, they're 23rd in the league, we're 2nd in the league. It should be very straightforward. And if they hadn't got that point at Leeds, if we hadn't come off the back of international break, I would be more confident. I still think we'll win on the weekend, but I'd be more confident going into it than perhaps I am. I think you look at the Blackburn game, we've seen Portman Road, what it's like these days, 29, 30,000, it's rocking at the moment. I think you see that one as the kind of, the one to really go out, set your stall out against an established Championship side and really show what you can do. And that's the kind of sides we should be, competing against, because, Wednesday have come up with us. Southampton are a parachute side. So like you said, it's almost a bit of a free hit because you go into their place. In reality, they should finish way above us given the budget differences. Doesn't always work that way, fair enough. But the likes of Blackburn are kind of, an established Championship side that will give us a good test. They've been at this level for ages. They've had a couple of good seasons in and around the playoffs. And that's a really good chance for us to show what we can do in front of a full crowd at Portman Road. So, yeah, I think the Blackburn game I would find slightly easier than the Sheffield Wednesday one.
Do you get abuse on Twitter for saying the likes of Blackburn? Because you do if you say teams like Blackburn. That really gets fit. Even though you could have just said the nicest thing in the world, followed by teams like Blackburn, who play amazingly beautiful football, and then you get loads of jip on Twitter. Amazing stuff. We'll go to the predictions and then we'll go to your questions. So get them all stocked up. But let's have a little bit of fun with this instead. Right, you can host this bit, Seb. So much so, I've flipped the pictures. Look at the production here on the Blue Monday podcast. Right, do you want me to put the gimmick up?
Yeah, go on, put this week's up. So you'll have to wait next week for the results. Rich is back next week, so we'll wait next week to see the results of last week. I don't actually know if I won or if he won, so that will stay in the ether until next weekend. This is this weekend's round of fixtures, so these are my predictions, along with Jules, who very kindly from Telegram has submitted his predictions. And you're going to do this in real time, aren't you? You're going to sort of take on the host kind of mantle here and kind of predict it in real time. So it's not that an amazing weekend of fixtures. I didn't think when I was going through them, nothing really stood out too much to me. We've got Hull against Coventry and Southampton against Leicester, both on Friday night. I've gone for a 1-1 Hull Coventry. Jules has gone for a Hull victory, and I've gone 2-2 Southampton Leicester, and Jules has gone 3-2 for a Leicester victory. What do you think for the 2 Friday night games?
Well, Hull are better than we thought they were going to be, aren't they? And Coventry are still gelling, so I don't think Hull are going to lose. So I might actually join you on the draw there, but because you've said 1-1, I guess I'll say 2-2. Southampton, Leicester. I don't want to fall into the I can't pick between the two teams, so I'll go for a draw. So I'll go for a Saints win. I'll go 2-1 Saints.
Okay. Blackburn versus Borough. So Borough haven't got going at all, have they? But they have just come off the back of the international break. So you'd like to think maybe Carrick will start to get them moving. I've gone for a 1-0 Blackburn victory. That said, Jules has gone for a 2-1 Blackburn. So we're both predicting 1-goal Blackburn victories. Yourself?
The logical thing to do here is to back Middlesbrough then, isn't it? And apparently Emmanuel Latte-Lap had loads of shots and didn't score. So he's going to score 2 goals in a 2-0 Borough win. And if you put a pound on that and win, I am taking 7.5%.
Bristol City versus West Brom. I've gone for a 1-1 draw. Jules has gone for a Bristol City win by 1 goal. He's gone for a 2-1 victory.
I'll go 1-0 Bristol City. I'm just beefing up the Mark Ashton derby. So
I was kind of hoping you were going to help me out and bury Rich as the host on this thing and start predicting 7-3 defeat for Leicester.
I'm trying my hardest, but with predictions in the Championship, I actually decided a long while ago there's not that much point. What we were going to do on my channel is get my little 2-year-old daughter Enid to point at stuff and see if she can beat me in the predictions, just to prove that there's no point even trying.
Brilliant. Huddersfield Rotherham, Yorkshire derby. Me and Jules have both gone for Huddersfield victories.
I'll join you then, but I won't double up. I'll go 2-1 Huddersfield.
Fair enough. Norwich Stoke, spend no time on it. Annoyingly, I've gone for a Norwich victory, 2-0 at home. Jules has gone for a 1-1.
Yeah, Norwich are good, aren't they? I'll go 3-1 Norwich. With the player of the month, Gabriel Sara as well.
Yeah. Back on the screen because I can't remember who's coming next. Preston, Plymouth. We've both gone for 1-goal victories. I've gone 2-1 to Preston. They'll keep them top of the league, I assume. Jules has gone for a 1-0 victory.
Yeah, I'm going to double up Jules. So I'll go for the Master beating the Apprentice and Ryan Lowe to beat Stephen Schumacher 1-0.
QPR Sunderland. I found this one a strange one. I wasn't sure what to do, so I bottled it and went for a 1-1 draw because QPR were better than I was expecting at Loftus Road. Sunderland coming off the back of that amazing Southampton victory. So I've gone 1-1. Jules has gone 2-2.
Yeah, I've got a weird fanboyness from QPR because everyone thought they were so terrible, 4-0 down at half-time in the first game. I'm quite enjoying them not being terrible. So I'm going to go 3-2, if that makes you happy, to QPR.
Okay. We'll come back and do us right at the end because we'll get the guys in the chat's predictions up on the screen as well. Watford, Birmingham. I've gone for a 1-1 draw, as has Jules.
Yeah, I'll make that 3 draws, but I'll go 2-2. And you can see an interview with Birmingham City manager John Eustace on the excellent Championship Check-In podcast hosted by me.
And then Cardiff, Swansea, the South Wales kind of derby. I've gone for a 2-2, as has Jules.
I like Mike Duff, so I'm going to go emotionally and say 2-1 Swansea. Not that there's much logic behind that.
And then finally on Sunday, you're going to this one, aren't you? Millwall Leeds. I've gone for a 2-0 Leeds victory. Jules has gone for a 2-1. What say you?
I agree with you. And Millwall don't have a keeper, do they? I think Sarkic is injured and they sold George Long to Norwich. So we might see an aging Bartosz Białkowski in goal back there. So I will double you up, Seb, and go 2-0 to Leeds.
And then we come to our result, obviously. So I've gone for I think it's going to be tighter than I would maybe expect. I've gone for a 2-1 Town victory. What did Jules put? 2-0, I think he put at the end, didn't he?
Jules probably about 5-0 to Ipswich, yeah.
For a 2-0. I've gone for a 1-goal win, a 2-1 victory. What do you think? Our record's not great, is it? Again, we've only won 1 in the last 9. The last win at Hillsborough was 2018, a Martin Waghorn double. So
I was at that game. One of those goals was brilliant. It was like this rehearsed free kick where everyone ran to the near post and he bent it. It's quite deliberate as well. Bent it. Yeah. Waghorn was so good for us, wasn't he, for one season?
What do you reckon is going to happen? I've gone for a narrow victory. Jules is more confident. Do you think I'm overthinking this by them being a bit buoyant by their point against Leeds, a 2-week break, and etc. etc.? Is it going to be more straightforward than I'm perhaps thinking?
No, you're not overthinking it. I went 2-2. I did Alex Griffin's thing earlier in the week, just purely because there's been a couple of 2-2s, and I hate us being favourites. It's second in the table, and in League One, it was okay because we've got way more money than everybody else, and we're winning most weeks. So I will go 2-2 just for self-preservation and my own weird mentality protection ideas there. I think there's loads and loads of predictions gone in via the chat there. So thank you, everybody, for indeed getting involved. But now you really, really need to get involved and get your questions in. So questions away. Seb is obviously itching to talk about the Ipswich Town ticketing system. As brought up at the Ipswich Town forum many, many times. So you could ask him about that if you really wanted to, or we could save that for the flagship, Seb, couldn't we?
Before we go to the Q&A, let me just do a plug. We've got Tom and Ben Miller, Town fans who live in Sheffield. We met Tom, obviously, Barnsley, after just minutes after that incredible George Hurst goal. They have the Nebs End Social bar and club in Sheffield. It's about half an hour away from Hillsborough. So if you're after a pre-match venue, make sure you go there. They're going to be open from 11 o'clock. Darts, table football, great selection of beers, food. Get yourself down there. If you go to www.nepsendsocial.com and check out the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, it's all over there. But make sure you go and see those guys. Half an hour from the ground, the best pre-match venue in Sheffield.
Can you imagine if we replayed that conversation literally 3 minutes after George Hurst scored probably most Ipswich fans' favourite goal of the last 15 years? I reckon we were probably just literally yelling in each other's faces and not even knowing what we were doing. Right, get your questions in. Stick a Q before them. Stick a question mark after them. Seb, do we see Scarlett off the bench tomorrow?
Yeah, I presume at some point he'll start to feature. I guess he'll get his first start in the Carling Cup whether it's the League Cup against Wolves. I thought we might see him against Cardiff, but he only joined 24 hours previously. So yeah, I think if it is Jackson and Freddie, because Hurst and Burns are out, then they won't last the 90. So I'd expect to see Scarlett come and get some involvement as the second half goes on.
Similar theme, Skip. Do you see Scarlett pushing Freddie out after his last game, or do you think he might come in for Broadhurst?
Well, he played wide left a bit for the Cowleys last season, but I think he's very much a kind of through the middle kind of player. That's where he wants to be. So his position is most similar to Freddie's. Freddie deserves a start for coming off the bench and those 2 goals in the comeback against Cardiff. So if both were kind of ready to go from the off and Hurst is out, I'd expect maybe Freddie to get the nod, but Scarlett to come in. Scarlett's obviously going to have a higher ceiling. He's come through a Premier League academy. McKenna's going to know him very well. He described him as one of the best young strikers in world football. So this is clearly an incredibly highly rated player who will get a lot of game time for us. I just think given the occasion and maybe the physicality of the back line of Wednesday, perhaps I would see maybe Ladapo get the nod if Hurst doesn't make it.
Yeah, fair comment. Norman, Williams or Clark to start? You went for Williams.
Yeah, I did. I just think Clark's got this Achilles issue, isn't he, which is being managed with Danassian back. Maybe they look to get it done, get some surgery done to get him right for the rest of the season. He's not been at his best so far this year. He wasn't great, but equally he missed a lot of pre-season, so he is playing catch up a little bit. I just think Williams has come in from Man United. There's probably a hefty loan contribution going on. McKenna will know him. I just think he's come here to play games, and I think at some point he's going to get the start. I think he struggled in his first appearance, didn't he, against Leeds and then against Reading in the Carabao Cup, but he played that beautifully weighted pass down the line to Hutchison for the third goal for the assist for Ladapo. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if he starts.
Yeah, I just wonder, can I play devil's advocate where if we're talking about get to Southampton in as good a position as possible and review, do you not go with the continuity of Clark, knowing that Williams can come in either during the game or just take over at Southampton?
Potentially, yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess whichever one it's going to be, there's no chance of Clark or Williams playing all 3 games this week, are there? So there'll be some rotation amongst them. I just think he's come to play. I think like Tuan Zabi, he's not come here to mess around, and I think once he gets in the side, he might well stick there for a bit.
I'll take this one, which says, Seth, did you phone the police about ticket touts? I can confirm that is true, that Seb has, on his lunch break, every day at work, phones the police to talk about ticket touting. And on the same note, question for Seb, given Ben is trying to get you to answer the tickets question, are you missing Rich?
I never thought I'd miss him, but yeah, I kind of wish he was here to deflect all the ticket talk at the moment. So yeah, come back, Rich. All is forgiven.
we should probably be serious about this. The only reason
we
we're giggling,
joke. Yeah,
I know. Let's be honest. The only reason we're giggling about it is because over the years we've obviously had a presence in the Ipswich Town fan dialogue. As ever, we've never claimed to be anything more than just fans who have this platform. We don't know any better than anybody else. We just give our opinions, and people listen because they tune into the platform, and we're happy to listen to anybody else's. But I must admit, it does get my take. This is not Seb's take. This is my take. It does get a bit silly, doesn't it, Seb? The kind of can I call it quarreling or bickering about all this? Is there a serious point underneath all the dialogue? And answer me in the chat here. Are you genuinely affronted by people sharing ticket accounts and buying a ticket and passing it on to someone to get the points? Is there a serious issue here that people should have a right to be cross about?
I can understand people getting upset because people are effectively jumping ahead in the priority system, aren't they? That's what's going on. You have
no one likes a jumper.
Yeah, somebody's got 4 points and they don't qualify until a week after tickets go on sale. Someone with 28 points buys a ticket on day 2 and looks to flog it online to somebody who doesn't qualify but can then go to the game. Then there's a whole other piece, isn't there, around you don't know who you're selling the ticket to, so there could be issues with banning orders I've seen online, and if there's abuse that goes on and that ticket's been sold on, how do the police track the person? It's a bit of a minefield, a bit of a mess, isn't it? The club clearly have had to act on it. They mentioned it last night. They were approached by the police, not from my phone calls, despite what Ben says I'm doing on my lunch hour. So they've had to act on it, and we have this ticketing policy about to come out. I guess we'll all be reading it. We'll all be reading it, studying it, and making sure we don't fall foul of the rules. And I just think that people swapping tickets has gone on for years. It's only an issue now because we're good. Let's be honest. 4 years ago, nobody wanted to swap a ticket to go.
Honestly, I've got a season ticket, and if I can't make a game, I'm more than happy to let somebody else sit in my seat.
What I do.
You know what I mean?
That's exactly what I do. Yeah, I don't ask for money for it. I'm happy for it to go out or go back to the foundation or whatever. And it sounds like the club are going to bring something in an official capacity to allow people to resell tickets or swap tickets out or something. And when that comes in, hopefully this will all go away. But yeah, the bickering, the quarreling, some of the stuff on social media is just a bit out of proportion, over the top for me personally. Everyone wait for the ticket policy to come out, read it. If you're still not out, well, no one's ever going to be happy. But this is the world we live in now. We're run by smarter people. We can't have it both ways. We can't demand success and new shiny players coming in and then not accept some of the priority systems and rules that are going to have to be enforced to pay for this and manage expectations. So nothing is ever perfect. The club won't always get it right. I liked the idea last night. A guy said, can people earlier in the queue buy a ticket, hold it, and then allocate the seat when their mates become available? I want to go to Huddersfield in 2 weeks' time, but I'm hanging on until next week because 2 of my mates don't qualify until I think it's Tuesday. So I don't want to buy a ticket, sit on my own when they can sit, when I can wait a few days and sit with them. So it sounds like it's an evolving piece the club are working on. I'd expect to see a lot of changes, but when the ticketing policy comes out, just read about it. And if you do see stuff going on online, this is just the world we live in. And sometimes it's easier just to look at things online and just say, just don't be a dick about it.
One of my Sheffield United mates once got me a ticket for a very high profile Sheffield United game in the away end as well. And there was a whole thread about me on a Sheffield United forum having a go at what is this Ipswich idiot doing in our stadium? New training facilities, will they be at Playford Road or is it somewhere new, Charlie?
Well, there was discussion, wasn't it, about moving it, and I think Copdock is the logical place given the A12, and it's you could see it as you approach the town, and you get that branch into Essex for more of a talent kind of pool. I don't think it'll be moved in the immediate future. There were some plans I think I saw around earlier. I don't know if they were online, if they're genuine or not, but I assume for now it'll be Playford Road, and maybe look to open a secondary site with maybe an academy type thing, maybe more in the Copdock A12 kind of area.
Colin, would you play Hutchison on Saturday? I would.
I was impressed with him when he came on against Cardiff. I thought he'd kind of stopped that whole, in the first few games, if someone laid a finger on him, he went down very easily because he's come from a Premier League kind of side, and that's the way things work there if you haven't played any kind of real senior men's football. So I was impressed with him, but for me, if Burns is out, put Jackson in that role because his pace was superb against them last season. McKenna trusts him in big games, and we know that
he He follows the instructions, doesn't he,
He
Jackson?
does, yeah, exactly. You know what he'll do. He'll track back all day. He'll work incredibly hard for the team. He'll cause problems with that pace. And I just think maybe also if it wasn't Sheffield Wednesday away, that it can be quite an imposing place. We saw it last season. Things were being thrown at the officials, and there was the call went out to say that the game would be abandoned if it went on. I just think for a young kid who's played an hour so far across 5 games, maybe of senior men's football, that's a big ask to throw him straight into a bit of a cauldron.
Noisy bunch up there. David, how good is Broadhead, Ben? I see him being a Premiership player, total class, ball sticks to him, and he's Welsh. Is that the key point? I think, was it Jack in our Telegram made a really good point. He said, if we're able to get players at this point, there's always going to be a question mark. So the question mark on Broadhead was that he was injured a lot for Sunderland, wasn't he? And I spoke to Graham Falk on podcast for Sunderland. He said they loved him, but it was just the injury things. And I get very militant trying to defend players about the idea of being injury prone. I think that's unfair a lot of the time. It's just rank bad luck that players get injured, especially with impact and tackles and things of that nature. But I agree with the questioner. I think he's brilliant. And if we're when Sheffield United got McGoldrick and he was just fit all the time, if we're the Sheffield United to Sunderland as they were to us, I've explained that badly, then I think he's class. Yeah. And it's a lovely setup for him as well, isn't it? Playing, inside forward, off the front. He's already up there on the goal contribs, isn't he? He's
3 goals so far and 1 assist, I think.
Yeah, so I think there's 3 or 4 players. I tweeted it earlier, actually. 3 or 4 players on 5 goal contribs, and Broadhead's right in there. So, yeah, hopefully if we get, you give me a number, Seb, 34 games out of him.
Be delighted.
Is that 15 goal contributions, maybe?
At least I would think so. If he's on 4 or 5 already after 5 games, then yeah, absolutely. Our medical team now is just light and day from where it was, isn't it? And that's the big hope about Twanzebe as well. We've signed these injury-prone players. In the old days, we wouldn't have seen them for Emma Hughes, for example, Tommy Adeyemi. We might not have seen them for a few weeks at a time. But even when they suffer injuries now, they seem to come back pretty quickly, and they get up to speed incredibly quickly as well because of the ferocity at which McKenna kind of trains and stuff. So yeah, I think he's an absolute class player. And if we can get 35, 36, 37 games out of him, I'd expect, 15, 16, 17 goal contributions.
I always end up paraphrasing Norman. I think he hates it. I always twist all his questions up. But he says, who will be our first choice back four come December? I'm assuming he's anticipating potentially 3 different players in there. If one of them's Walton, one of them's Williams, and one of them's Tuanzebe. Do you think that's the nature of his question there?
I think so, yeah. I mean, the Hladky-Walton debate will start pretty soon. So if we assume Walton gets the shirt back, Williams, like I've said, I think has come into player. So I expect him to be the right back moving forward, and that will allow maybe Clark to go and get his Achilles sorted out. Wolfenden and Tuanzebe could be a brilliant partnership, given they would tick all the boxes of athleticism, power, reading of the game. Burgess has done brilliantly, but Tuanzebe is a next level up. And obviously Leif Davis, is going to be the left back, no questions asked.
Nat, one of our Sheffield Wednesday friends, how's Luongo playing this season? He's having a lovely time being chaperoned by Sam Morsey.
Yeah, he's just carried on as he was, hasn't he? He came in just after that Sheffield Wednesday 2-2 draw back in February, didn't look back. He had this crazy record where he'd won every game he'd featured in for quite a long time. He's only had 1 defeat, and the 2 of them have just kept going. He's been subbed a few times. There've been a couple of games where maybe he wasn't as effective as he was last season, but I guess when you're up against, Archie Gray and Ethan Ampadu, it's very different to being up against, with all due respect, Morecambe central midfield. So that's a natural part of the step up. But he's come in really well. Taylor is pushing on the door, but for now it's Luongo and Morsey's shirts to lose, isn't it?
Bosh, I think we're nearly there. One more. Anir, biggest saleable asset in the squad for the future?
At this point, it has to be Leif Davis, doesn't it? At the moment, he's got the numbers from last season. He's stepped up effortlessly and started this season well. But if what we just said happens, if we get 40 games out of Broadhead and he's got 17 goal contributions, then he'll be up there as well. But as it stands at the minute, I would expect it to be Davis.
There's always the premium for English and left-footed as well, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. Marco Bielsa's school of training as well, that will come into effect. So yeah, I could see him. I could see him being the one next season. If we have to start doing player trading, if somebody knocks on Ashton's door with 22 million quid, then
Oh,
yeah.
Seb, we need to get real about it. There's no if.
Oh yeah.
We have to trade given what we think, even though the spend on infrastructure's been good, and maybe we won't look forward to the accounts, but we'll be very fascinated in the accounts for last season, which we can't write off. We did the bit with Kieran Maguire for the Telegram group. There's a bit of a sense that you go, League One's League One, but it's not. It does all roll forward into the 3-year period, obviously under kind of different sort of standards. But yeah, and I would still count that as success if you're going from.
Oh yeah.
If you're going from League One second place, which is 46 in the pyramid, it's exactly halfway in the pyramid to. Say you finish in the top 10 to 30 in the pyramid, plus you make bank on a big saleable asset, which we haven't done since, if you don't count the Waghorn 5 million, we haven't done since Tyrone Mings, then I actually count that as success, as much as I would like Leif Davis to be our player for ages, Seb.
I agree, yeah, and it's how we did it back in 1999, 2000, isn't it? Kieran Dyer goes out and it enables us to bring in three or four quality players to enhance the squad, and it's the world we live in. It's the only way we're going to be able to compete against the parachute clubs. So, yeah, we
Tarico, Tony Vaughan, Steve Sedgley.
Exactly.
Before that, it was
enjoy them while we're here, but we are in a different world now to the previous ownership and stuff, and we have to accept that our place in the food chain. Sometimes bigger boys will come along and steal the shiny things.
Cool. Are you at the game on Saturday?
I'm not. No, I am down in London celebrating a certain member of the podcast's milestone birthday. So I'm going down to London. We've got a few of us going down with Rich to celebrate his birthday. It's sort of all our old schoolmates. So very much looking forward to that, which is frustrating because I normally do love going to Sheffield Wednesday. It's one of my favourite away days. But he selfishly booked his birthday 40 years ago for the same weekend. So there we go.
I love the way you started off by not outing who it was or what the birthday was, and you lasted about 15 seconds before you just spilled the beans. I've got my bloody sister's birthday at the weekend as well, so I'm not at the game either. So apologies for that, but don't worry, we'll still have a wonderful flagship show on Sunday, which you can join us for at 8 p.m. hopefully. Oh, wouldn't it be great, Seb? So a win, that would be what we got, 12 points out of
15 points.
15 points out of 8. Yeah. Mental,
6 games. Yeah. 2 points. You have to get the extrapolator back out from all those years ago and work out what we're going to finish
the extrapolator doesn't go that high. Well, that's like 115 points or something.
Yeah. Ridiculous. And obviously we've got Southampton in the week. And then follow up with Blackburn next weekend. So here it comes thick and fast now for the next few weeks.
Yes, and it's a neat blob of games, isn't it? It's 6 rounds. And as you mentioned, there's the back-to-back if you factor in the Wolves game, which I think we all understand is going to be somewhat of a friendly, isn't it? So, looking forward to it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Before you go, if you're watching on YouTube, please do hit the thumbs up button. A huge thank you for all of your comments and all your interaction throughout the show. Absolutely brilliant stuff. If you want to keep the conversation going, come and join us over on Telegram. You can have a 2-week free trial there. Just tweet any of the pod team and we'll answer you. But it's bluemonday.itfc.co.uk. And as ever, you can see below me right there, the Prematch Show is brought to you by the Greyhound Ipswich, where you will find certain members of the pod team every day with their little ticket booth dishing out tickets for where that doesn't happen.
Brilliant.
That absolutely does not happen. I'm going
to ring the police. I'm going to ring the police.
Oh dear, this joke has gone far too far now, hasn't it? But yes, go to the Greyhound, where no nefarious activities go whatsoever. It's just a lovely place that will sell you booze and give you a lovely atmosphere to drink it. And you buy some food as well. Have I dug myself out of that, Seb?
Just about. I think you've pulled it back, yeah.
the plane was nosediving there, and I just pulled it out of the lot. I didn't pull it out, did I? Dearie me. Shocking. Right. Thank you, everybody. If you are on your way to Sheffield Wednesday at the weekend, safe travels. If you're on the way to Sheffield Wednesday right now and you are in the car listening to us, give your horn. No, don't beep your horn. That's not legal either. What am I doing?
Send us a selfie from Tom and Ben's bar.
Yes,
that. There you go.
do that. And send a picture of the little dashboard that says Blue Monday podcast on it. Absolutely tremendous. Last word to you, Seb.
Enjoy, everyone. See you next week.